put you on the spot.
Look, it's quite all right. So again, thank you guys for having me. For those who do not know, my name is Champagne Brown. In this particular space, I do serve as District Attorney Dinah Becton campaign manager for her reelection that's coming June 7th. DA Becton was originally appointed to the office in 2017 when the previous DA pled to felony charges. So the community basically went to DA Becton, who at the time was serving as a judge in our county courts. And because we wanted someone who we knew was about criminal justice reform, doing things differently, will look at things with a lens of equity, but also had compassion. She was the perfect person for the job. And so the community went to her, asked her to put her name in the ring. She did. And luckily the Board of Supervisors saw that the community was correct and selected her as our DA. Subsequently, she went ahead and ran for the position outright in 2018, and smart voters in Cocoa County elected her outright as our DA. It has been, an honor to be able to work with her on this campaign, but just personally, just knowing her as a person and just knowing how, graceful she is, how she has compassion for everyone that she comes across. I cannot see anyone else serving as our district attorney. So with that being said, I'm going to stop talking because the woman of the hour is here and y'all didn't come to hear me speak. So with that, DA Becton, the floor is yours.
Thank you all. Thank you all for allowing me a chance to speak with you this afternoon. And thank you all for all that you do. When I was serving as a judge in the Richmond court, of course, I was a proud Rotarian. And I guess one day when things are not so busy, I'll come back and join again. So great to see you all, and so grateful for all the work that Rotarians are doing. So as you heard, I'm Dinah Becton, and 4 years ago, I'm going to just give you a little bit about the work that I have been doing. And then, of course, I'll leave plenty of time for you to ask questions, any questions that you might have. So 4 years ago, Contra Costa voters like you elected me as your district attorney, and that was with overwhelming support. I'm so proud to say that I've worked hard to not only deliver safety and justice, but also progress for the people of Contra Costa County. We're living in very challenging times, and people do want to feel safe. We want to feel safe in our homes. We want to feel safe in our communities, and all of us deserve to feel that. So I would like to start out by saying we have held those who've harmed victims accountable. We've made our office much more transparent to the residents of the county and adoptive innovative approaches so that we can reduce racial disparities and move us beyond a singular reliance on incarceration. Do know that your safety is always my #1 priority. And as your district attorney, I have not only made our county safer, but also supported victims of crime. One of the things that I will highlight with you is because everybody's talked about the smash and grabs, and Contra Costa County made news all over the country because in November, 90 people stormed the Nordstrom's in Walnut Creek from 3 separate entrances, taking merchandise and also, actually pushing and shoving at some of the employees. And then all simultaneously, they left out of separate entrances again and jumped into cars. The police were only able to apprehend initially 3 suspects from that time. But I want you to know that every one of those people who was arrested and brought into our office has been charged with serious felony crimes, including organized retail theft and robbery. So we are taking those cases very seriously. I also immediately partnered with 6 district attorneys up and down the state of California because we quickly recognized that those who are committing these crimes are organized. And we need to be organized too. So with DAs in Santa Clara, San Joaquin, San Mateo, Alameda, we have all partnered and pooled our resources together. We are coordinating with state and federal law enforcement as well, so that we are bringing the best intelligence and also the best prosecutorial tools to the table. We also work with the Attorney General's office, and we were proud to announce just about a month ago convictions related to crimes that we prosecuted with their assistance. We're also supporting by the fact that I lead the FBI Safe Streets Task Force, which is our task force helping us to be smart on crime by focusing on those who are committing crime using guns and gangs and are committing violence in our communities. I have established a hate crimes committee in Contra Costa counties in the DA's office, so that when those who are in our community who are targeting others and committing crimes against them because of their status, that we are able to properly review those, also work with community members on those cases to get them successfully prosecuted. I've established the office's first human trafficking unit to stop those who are trying to exploit people for their sex and or labor. We work very closely again with law enforcement and also victim service providers, as we have a comprehensive approach of prevention and education and awareness, as well as proactive investigations and proactive prosecutions. But then I reimagined our justice system. Thousands of old marijuana convictions I have dismissed. These are convictions that were on people's records that keep them from getting jobs and housing, student loans, and any other ways for them to be productive in our society. And most of the people affected were affected as people of color. We're reviewing old sentences to determine if those sentences are still in the interest of the community's safety. And I received $1 million from the governor's office to be able to enhance the work that we're doing there. We are making sure that law enforcement and public officials and everyone who abuses their power, that they are held accountable. We want to make sure that there's a clear message that no one is above the law. We have improved our investigations for officer-involved shootings and made tremendous progress in preventing crime and helping young people as well. I was able to receive $1 million grant to establish the first juvenile diversion pre-filing program for Contra Costa County, so that our youth are not only held accountable, but they also get an assessment and the services that they need so that they can thrive in our communities and that they do not come back into our criminal justice system. I created a Reimagine Youth Justice Task Force to recommend alternatives to the criminal justice system for our young people. And we are prioritizing our charging decisions away from low-level nonviolent offenses and making sure that people with substance abuse and with mental health issues are getting into treatment. I'm proud to say that our sexual assault test kits are all up to date in Contra Costa County, and that I've worked with law enforcement to put in place an electronic tracking system so that those cases don't get behind again. You all heard that I served as a judge, and I would say that few positions have positioned me to be the district attorney than having served as a Superior Court judge for 22 years. I was elected as the presiding judge, and also I served as the president of the National Association of Women Judges. In my time on the bench, I handle complex civil and criminal cases, along with juvenile and consumer and environmental, because those are all things that are part of the work here in the district attorney's office. The governor has appointed me to serve on 2 pivotal committees. I serve on the State Victims Compensation Board, where I am making sure that victims of crime receive fair and just compensation and support. And also I serve at the pleasure of the governor on the Judicial Selection Advisory Committee to help vet those people who want to become judges, not only in Contra Costa County, but also around the country. When I was sworn in 4 years ago, I made a promise to do things differently, and I believe that together we have built change that lasts. I have the amazing support of all of our congressmen, Swalwell, DeSaulnier, Thompson, and McNerney, our state leaders, Fiona Ma, Tony Thurmond, Malia Cohen, justice leaders, state legislatures like Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, Nancy Skinner, Buffy Wicks, and Mia Bonta, our county leaders, John Joya, Supervisor Glover, and Burgess, educational leaders, environmental leaders, transportation leaders, labor, including Central Labor Council, as well as the building trades, AFL-CIO, Democracy for America. I am the Democratic Party endorsed candidate, and also I've received the endorsement of the East Bay Times as the best candidate, especially to bring reform and accountability for Contra Costa County. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Yeah. Do we have any questions? Go ahead, Jamila.
Hi, so nice to see you again. My question is, there are 58 counties in California. How many Black female DAs are in those counties?
Okay, statistics. Let me start with a bigger picture, if you don't mind. There are about 2,400 elected prosecutors in the country. Less than 1% of all those elected prosecutors are women, Black women or women of color. In California, I have the distinction of serving as the only African-American district attorney in the state of California. And you all might remember that when I was appointed, it was history making because I was the first woman, the first person of color, and the first Black person to sit in this position since the office was organized in 1850. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for serving in the role. And I appreciate you not only walking through the door, but taking it off the hinges. So you will not be the only one. You will just be the first, but you won't be the last. My 9-year-old daughter should definitely be in the judicial system at some point. I'm hoping that she will be a lawyer or a judge and not on the other side of the desk. That's what we're working for. So thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do for our children and all that you do for our children in education. Thank you.
And speaking of women, I think it's important to note how I have increased the diversity in my office as well in the short time that I have been here. When I came in on board in 2017, we looked at the statistics. The office was roughly 82% white, and we've started to increase the diversity so that my office can reflect the rich diversity of the people in Contra Costa County that we serve. It was 55% male. I am now 55% female. I was able to appoint the first female chief of staff in the county's history, and not only the DA's office, but the county. And I also subsequently, when that person retired, appointed the first female person of color chief of staff in the county's history and in this office's history. I mentioned that we're now 55% women. We've also increased the diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. And also my management teams are now majority women. So we've done a lot of work in that area as well. Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Hi, DA Becton. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for speaking with our club today. I wanted to ask about, I remember when Vice President Harris was both running for president and in her senatorial run and becoming the vice presidential candidate, a lot of progressive folks had a lot to say about her being a former DA, and her position as a progressive woman of color was questioned a lot because of her background as a district attorney. And I'm curious about, as a progressive woman of color who's a district attorney, what you, how you are able to balance the job with the expectations, with the kind of discourse around the position?
Sure. Thank you for that question. And then it's a kind of a really it's a big question in a lot of ways. The other night, we had such an amazing night because I was asking that same question of Black women prosecutors from around the country who joined me in a conversation about what it's like to sit in this space. We even talked about how we felt when we were watching the hearings for confirmation for Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and not only, you know, on the one hand, feeling proud of her to be in this space, a woman qualified, overqualified, if you will, but also thinking about the way that she was treated and how painful that was, and how we as Black women have this treatment. I mean, it is just what happens to us, and it's not just to me, but to people around Black women around the country who are serving in positions of power. It's not all about race, but it really is a difficult and a weighty space to sit in when people just don't want to see you here, not only because of the work that you're doing, but who attack you in other ways simply because, and I've had people even post on my Facebook and other places that just tell me bluntly, you don't belong. And these is a very hurtful place to be. But I'll tell you that it's also what makes me extra proud of how much we've been able to accomplish in Contra Costa County. If you all remember the history, when I was appointed and made history as being the first woman, I also walked into an office that was hostile to me. Let's just face it. And it's really a testimony to be able to move this office through change because of the fact that my attorneys are all civil service. And so I don't really have the opportunity, like people say, why didn't you just go in there and clean house? Well, no, I've got to work with the people that are here because they're still here, and making this kind of change to think about things through a lens of fairness and a lens of equity and redefining what justice means for everyone, what safety means for everyone, is really like trying to turn a big ship in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't turn quickly, it doesn't happen overnight. And in spite of all of the backlash and the attacks for the work that we're doing, especially when we're holding people who abuse their power accountable, you all saw the painful news reports when unfortunately we had an officer who took the life of a mentally ill man, and we prosecuted that case. A jury found that the behavior was wrong and that he was guilty. And we also had a judge who gave a very lengthy sentence about and an explanation about why he was a threat to our community, to our community's safety. And then you heard law enforcement come and attack me for bringing the charges in the first place. So it's a difficult space to sit in. But I think what happens for us who are in these spaces and who are doing this work, we recognize the challenges, we recognize that there will be those attacks on us, a lot of hit pieces, but we also recognize that we're in not just a moment, but this is a movement. It's a movement for change. And I'm up for the task. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for your answer, DA Becton. I really appreciate you and I appreciate your work. Thank you.
What other questions do we have? Cameron, go ahead.
Hi, DA Becton. It was so great to meet you at the DPCC picnic last weekend, and thanks for being here today.
Sure.
Now, you touched on hate crimes, which is personal to me because I personally felt its impact. My family community has, especially these past 2 years when the rate of hate crimes for Asian Americans have gone up 107% in California. And so you mentioned a hate crimes committee at our county level, but what can we do at the local level to go above and beyond in making sure that hate crimes are addressed and reported? Because a lot of the times I'll have conversations with AAPI residents who have experienced hate incidents and crimes, but have no idea where to report it. Not to mention some of the groups within the AAPI diaspora don't feel comfortable coming to law enforcement. And so I guess my question is, how do we address hate crimes at the local level without over-policing to the detriment of our marginalized communities?
Absolutely. And it's really a difficult space to live in. And I think I do wonder, if you will, whether or not, especially crimes that are committed against our API community, might be underreported in Contra Costa County, because we just have not seen the cases and the media attention around that kind of abuse that we've seen in other counties, like you mentioned, Southern California and also in San Francisco. So I think one big part of it is community awareness. And, you know, this is something that people don't realize about the district attorney's office. We're not just here prosecuting, but we are also here to be able to come to our communities, to talk to groups, to make you aware of what a hate crime is and how it can be prosecuted, and what to do and where to go when you think you've been a victim of a hate crime. Yes, when you think something has happened of that nature, you're supposed to call your local law enforcement. And we also try to work and train those agencies as well, so that they understand, you know, some of the signs. But if you do not feel that you are getting fairly treated or you're getting brushed off, you definitely should make your voices known to our law enforcement partners. But you could also contact us, and we could see if we could help with the investigation as well. Thank you for your question. And I do really apologize for any in our community that are being separated and treated differently because of their race or their heritage.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great question. Any other questions for District Attorney Becton? Perfect.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'll be happy to come back anytime to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We know you're a very busy woman, so thank you so much for speaking to us. Champagne, thank you so much for joining us as well. I love that you're a Rotarian. I had no idea too.
Yeah, one of the best things that I think we did in Richmond was to establish a reading program for kids. It used to be a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'll come back.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you for all you're
Thank
doing.
you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
guys.
you both.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Jamila, thanks for setting all that up. I think you were kind of the spearhead for that. So I appreciate it.
I just asked the question and then Anna told me where to go and pointed me in the right direction. And then I hooked people up with champagne and then got out of the way. So it's, that's kind of what I've learned now, just kind of get out of the way. But she's just absolutely fabulous. She's so humble and she's so quiet, but such a powerful voice. And it absolutely blows my mind that in 58 counties, you only have one Black female DA. And she was the very first. And I mean, how long has California been established, right? So it's just one of those things that it just, I don't know, it's mind boggling to me. And I heard her speak before and she said one of the things that she values, and it was to your question, she was like, one of the things that she values is the fact that when she has to kind of distribute these punishments or these consequences for behavior, the fact that she looks like some of the people that come before her, it's a way of doing it with an empathetic lens, right? And it's a way of saying, I still understand who you are. And it's representation matters in all systems. Representation matters no matter what side of that table you're on. You know, if you, in education, if you have to suspend a kid, but that kid looks like your son, there's a different way that you approach it, right? If the child then looks and say, God, you remind me of my mom, there's a different way of receiving all of it. So representation matters in all systems. And she's someone I throw my name behind. That's it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.